Imagine an entire civilization thriving for centuries, then gone. Not a single body, not a trace of struggle, just empty homes left behind. Deep within its crimson canyons and towering plateaus, an ancient people built magnificent cities into cliff faces, mastered impossible landscapes, and then, inexplicably, today, we're peeling back layers of dust and time to uncover the astonishing truth behind one of history's greatest archaeological puzzles, the Ancestral Puebloans. A civilization that, by all accounts, simply walked away, leaving us with a mystery that still echoes through the ages. For centuries, the story of the Ancestral Puebloans, sometimes mistakenly called the Anasazi, the Navajo term often translated as ancient enemies or ancestors of enemies, has captivated and confounded. These were a people who built an extraordinary society in the harsh yet beautiful landscape of what we now call the Four Corners region, where the modern-day states of Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah meet. For more than 1,500 years, from roughly 1 CE to the late 100s, their culture flourished, leaving behind a breathtaking archaeological record. Entire settlements, monumental structures carved into cliffs and built atop high mesas were systematically abandoned. One day, people were there, living, farming, thriving. The next, they were gone. No warning, no trace. The villages stood silent, frozen in time. What they left behind tells the story of an orderly, almost deliberate departure. We find pottery still in place, tools laid down, even supplies of corn and beans meticulously preserved in granaries. It's as if they simply packed a bag and walked away from a fully functioning life. And here's the most chilling detail, the one that sets this mystery apart from almost any other in history. Not a single human body has ever been found in these abandoned settlements. It's a silence that screams one question: where did these tens of thousands of people go? And how could an entire civilization vanish without a single trace of death or burial? This absence of bodies is not just a detail. It is the heart of the enigma, the ultimate historical ghost story. To truly understand the magnitude of this disappearance, we first need to understand just how extraordinary the Ancestral Puebloan civilization was. This was not a primitive society struggling to survive. It was a highly sophisticated culture that shaped the land to its will. Imagine intricate multi-story stone villages, some hugging the sides of towering cliffs, like the famous dwellings of Mesa Verde, others rising from the desert floor as massive, planned communities such as Chaco Canyon. These aren't just crude shelters. They are structures built with almost impossible precision, using hand-hewn sandstone blocks fitted together without mortar, their walls still standing strong after 800 years. The cliff dwellings, in particular, are engineering marvels, perfectly positioned to capture the winter sun and provide shade in the brutal summer heat. They were both fortresses and homes, testaments to an incredible collective effort and ingenuity. But their genius wasn't limited to building. They were farmers in one of the most challenging environments on Earth. They engineered complex irrigation systems, diverting precious rainwater and river water through channels, and check dams to nourish fields of maize, beans, and squash. This wasn't merely sustenance. It was the foundation of their entire way of life. Beyond farming, they were master artisans. Their pottery, with its distinctive black-on-white designs, was exquisite. They traded turquoise, a precious stone, over vast distances, establishing networks that reached deep into Mesoamerica. And they were keen observers of the heavens, charting celestial cycles with a precision that hints at a deep spiritual connection to the cosmos and an advanced understanding of astronomy. Their kivas, subterranean ceremonial chambers, were often aligned with the solstices and equinoxes, reflecting their profound relationship with the rhythms of nature. This was a thriving civilization, a beacon of human achievement in an unforgiving landscape. Their achievements were remarkable, but they were also a testament to a fragile balance. Living in such a marginal environment meant that their existence was tied to the winds of nature. And it seems that nature began to turn against them. The primary culprit, a devastating force that archaeologists and climate scientists agree on, was a severe megadrought. Imagine decades of scorching sun and parched earth. Not just a bad season or two, this was a sustained, relentless assault on their agricultural heartland. Tree ring data, which provides an incredibly detailed record of past climates, confirms that the late 200s experienced one of the most intense and prolonged droughts in the region's history, lasting nearly 30 years. For a people whose lives revolved around maize farming, this was nothing short of an apocalypse. Their intricate irrigation systems, once marvels of engineering, became monuments to dust. But it wasn't just the drought. Other environmental pressures were also at play. The constant need for timber for construction and fuel had resulted in widespread deforestation, further stressing the fragile ecosystem. The land that had sustained them for so long was slowly being choked. With crops failing, water scarce, and resources dwindling, life became an unbearable struggle. It's not hard to imagine the ripple effects: hunger, desperation, and eventually the breakdown of social order. While direct evidence is scarce, it's highly probable that these immense environmental pressures led to social unrest, increased competition for what little resources remained, and perhaps even internal conflicts. The once thriving communities became untenable. The intricate web of life they had so carefully spun was unraveling. The question wasn't if they would leave, but how. This brings us back to the central enigma: the lack of bodies. If there was famine, if there was social breakdown, wouldn't there be evidence of death, of desperation, of people dying where they lived? The haunting silence of the abandoned sites offers a powerful counter-narrative. The absence of bodies isn't a sign of sudden catastrophe. It's an interpretation of an orderly, planned exodus. Think about it. If a war or disease had wiped them out, we would find skeletons. If famine had led to mass starvation, bodies would be left behind. But instead, we find carefully stacked pottery, tools neatly arranged, even food stores left untouched. This suggests that the people had enough time, enough foresight, and enough collective organization to make a monumental decision. They weren't going to die here. They were going to leave. Archaeologist William Leap, a leading expert on the Ancestral Puebloans, puts it succinctly: they didn't vanish. They simply moved. This is the migration theory, and it's the most compelling explanation for the greatest archaeological puzzle of the Southwest. Faced with an impossible situation, they made a collective choice for survival. So, where did they go? The evidence, both archaeological and cultural, points southward. These weren't random wanderings. It was a strategic, determined movement to new regions with more reliable water sources. Many migrated towards the Rio Grande Valley in New Mexico, others into Arizona, and some perhaps even further south into parts of Mexico. They dispersed, seeking new lands where they could once again plant their crops and rebuild their lives. And here's where the narrative moves from ancient mystery to living history. These people didn't just disappear into the sands of time. Their modern descendants are the vibrant and enduring Hopi, Zuni, and other Pueblo peoples of today. Their oral traditions, passed down through countless generations, tell stories of their ancestors leaving the cliff dwellings, of a sacred journey in search of water and fertile land, guided by spiritual understanding and the need to preserve their way of life. These aren't just ancient stories. They are the living memory of that great migration. The reason no bodies were found at the abandoned sites suddenly becomes clear, because no one died there during the departure. The people made a conscious, collective decision to leave. The sites weren't destroyed. They were purposefully abandoned. The Ancestral Puebloans chose life over place, survival over tradition, adaptation over extinction. It was, perhaps, the largest planned migration in ancient North American history. In the end, the true vanishing act wasn't of the people themselves, but of their distinct, cliff-dwelling lifestyle. The iconic image of homes carved into rock faces, the architectural wonders we marvel at today, that particular way of life did indeed fade away. But the people did not. They did not die out. They relocated, they adapted, they merged with other groups, and they fundamentally transformed their societies to fit new environments. The lack of bodies, which initially presents as a macabre mystery, isn't a testament to some horrifying, unseen catastrophe. Instead, it's a profound testament to their cultural resilience, their foresight, and their deep-seated will to survive. It speaks volumes about their social cohesion and their ability to make incredibly difficult, unanimous decisions for the common good. They weren't passive victims of climate change. They were active agents in their own survival. They faced an existential threat, and their fundamental choice was clear. They chose life over clinging to a place that could no longer sustain them. They chose a future for their children and their traditions, even if it meant leaving behind the spectacular homes their ancestors had built. So, the lasting legacy of the Ancestral Puebloans isn't a riddle of forgotten corpses, but a powerful story of living heritage. Their spirit, their knowledge, and their traditions persist, vibrant and strong, in the cultures of their descendants today. The civilization that seemed to vanish only did so in a physical sense, only to be reborn and thrive elsewhere. A powerful reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, the human spirit finds a way. To explore more astonishing tales from the ancient world, make sure you check out our next video right here.